The reenactments and commentary in this program may contain frank talk of a sexual nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
The prosecution strikes its first major blow. An eyewitness gives us a lurid account. Hello, and welcome to the Michael Jackson trial and E-News presentation. I'm James Curtis. Day 6. Jurors hear from the accused's younger brother, who delivers some explosive and potentially devastating prosecution testimony. District Attorney Tom Snedden gets right to the point, asking the young witness about an alleged X-rated evening with the King of Pop. According to the courtroom transcripts, here's how it happened.
Now, when you got upstairs and you're in the room, what happened then?
They were asleep on the bed, and Frank had a computer. It was a computer that Michael gave him the first time.
Gave who?
Gave Gavin.
Okay.
And this time it already had internet access. So Frank did something and the internet was on. And we started going on sites.
Going on sites?
Yes.
What kind of sites?
Pornography sites.
Now, do you recall whose idea it was to go on the internet?
Michael's.
Do you recall what he said?
No, but while we were on one of those sites, a lady had her shirt up and Michael said, "Got milk?"
Do you remember that?
Yeah. And then he leaned over to Prince and says, "You're missing some P-U-S-S-Y." But he said it in his ear, but Prince was still asleep.
And what did the sites have? You don't need to go into all the details, but generally, what was the common denominator?
Females. Females.
And can you tell us whether or not they had clothes on?
They didn't have clothes on.
Females only?
Yes.
And then what did you guys do?
After all that, we started watching some Simpsons videos.
Okay, and then what?
And then Michael told us not to tell no one what we did.
I'm sorry?
He told us not to tell our parents what we did.
Who said that?
Michael.
The Frank referred to by this witness is Frank Tyson, an unindicted co-conspirator and a member of the Jackson team. Later, the accuser's brother recalls the flight back from Miami, where he saw some shocking and bizarre behavior.
Now, at any time when you were on the plane, did you see your brother and Mr. Jackson drinking anything?
Yes.
What did you see?
I saw Michael with a Diet Coke can and my brother with a Sprite can.
With the what kind?
I don't know exactly what brand it is, but it was a soda can.
Now, were you ever offered to drink out of either one of those cans?
Yes.
By whom?
By Michael.
And what did he say to you?
He leaned over and he handed it to me. I thought it was Diet Coke, so I didn't want to be rude, so I took a drink. And it tasted like the smell of, like, rubbing alcohol. It tasted really... So I handed it back to him, and I asked him what it was, and then he said it was wine.
Did you drink any more out of that can during this trip?
No.
Tell me what you saw your brother and Mr. Jackson doing during the trip.
I saw my brother... After a while, he didn't feel too good, so my brother leaned over on Michael's chest, and I saw Michael's head licking my brother's, the top of his head.
What do you mean?
He was just licking his head.
How long did that last?
I don't know, 6 seconds probably.
Did you notice any change in the behavior of Mr. Jackson during the flight?
Objection, leading. Overruled.
Really weird.
What do you mean, really weird?
Like, just didn't make sense.
Who?
Michael and my brother.
That testimony, Ricky Kleeman, leads to some other more pointed testimony later on, but let's deal with this first and take the big picture. How is it coming across for the prosecution?
Well, this is a good day for the prosecution. You have a witness who really becomes ultimately the eyewitness to the alleged crime. And the way it's built up is with little parts of the creep factor, as I would call it. Licking, not kissing. Using dirty words about women, drinking out of the Coke can. I mean, it's a creep factor that really gets to be big and creepy.
It does get bigger and bigger. Howard Weitzman, the idea of women and pornography, does that square with the pedophile that we are led to believe that Michael Jackson is?
No, it generally does not. Talk about creep factors. You have to take a good look at this witness. I found it interesting and fertile ground for cross-examination.
Really?
Yeah. Rubbing alcohol and wine really don't have the same smell or scent, at least the wines. And I've got a pretty, broad palette of wines.
Sure.
I've never had wine that smelled like rubbing alcohol. Licking someone's head, just the picture in one's mind doesn't make any sense. So again, credibility issue. If this witness is believed, Michael Jackson is in trouble, and by the way, Michael Jackson should be in trouble.
All right, Sean, with respect to that issue that Howard just brought up, that raised a flag in my mind as well. Licking, okay, but the alcohol taste, either it's really cheap wine, it's hard liquor, or it's a lie.
Well, as Howard said, the bottom line is this. If this witness is believed, that's the critical question, and that's what Tom Mesereau is going to get to, showing us that we can't believe this witness.
That is the question. Next, the accuser's brother drops a bombshell.
Do you recall that occasion when you were sitting on the bed and he walked into the room?
Yes.
Tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what you saw.
Me and my brother were watching a movie, and Michael walked up naked. And he walked to the corner of the room, picked up something. Me and my brother were grossed out, and he sat on the bed and told us it was natural. And then he walked back downstairs.
Did either you or your brother say anything to him? Let me break it up, because I don't want to get a compound problem here. Did you say anything to him when he walked in?
I was just grossed out.
No, but did you say anything to him?
No.
Did brother say anything to him in your presence?
No.
Objection. Hearsay. Overruled.
The answer was?
No.
How long was it that Mr. Jackson was in the room with you and your brother naked?
Probably about 2 minutes.
Did you see anything else about Mr. Jackson at that time?
No.
When you say he was naked, what was he wearing, if anything?
Nothing.
Totally naked?
Yes.
So you could see his private parts?
Yes.
The prosecutor goes on to have this witness describe, really with more specificity, what Michael Jackson looked like at the time, Howard Weitzman. That's got to hurt this defense team.
Well, specifically, he said Michael Jackson was walking around the room with an erection in front of these two boys. That would be devastating if believed. And honestly, if that's what Michael Jackson was doing, he has a real problem.
Now, you represented Michael Jackson. How is this all striking you? The Michael Jackson you knew? Are you surprised, taken aback?
Well, as I said earlier, some weeks ago, I find it hard to believe the charges are accurate, and I choose to believe Michael didn't do that. But you know what? I wasn't there, and we're going to have to rely on the credibility and the memory of these witnesses, and perhaps Michael, if he testifies.
Sean Chapman-Holly, your firm also represented Michael Jackson in the past.
Along with Mr. Weitzman.
Along with Mr. Weitzman, and subsequent to their representation. How does it strike you?
Well, I don't believe it. I believe Michael Jackson.
Now, are you
I don't
fighting to
believe
say
that
that,
this
Sean?
happened.
It didn't seem to roll
No.
off your lips swimmingly that you don't believe
Only
it.
because I'm thinking about privileged information, but
Okay,
I can
sure.
say that I think that Michael Jackson is not guilty of these crimes.
Okay.
And if he is guilty of these crimes, according to the prosecution's case, this scene in and of itself is enough to predispose that jury that when this youngster is going to talk about an act with his brother, that they're ready to hear it and they're ready to accept it as true.
And will this testimony totally do away with and really neutralize all the hits that the prosecution took up to this time ahead? The most damning testimony yet, plus Michael Jackson speaks. Stay with us.
The reenactments and commentary in this program may contain frank talk of a sexual nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back. District Attorney Tom Sneddon pushes forward. The accuser's younger brother provides more shocking allegations about life at Neverland. Here's what the jurors heard according to the courtroom transcripts.
Where was the suitcase located? I mean, how did you ever look at the suitcase inside of it?
Yes.
What happened?
There was adult material in there.
All right. But how did it get opened?
Michael pulled it out.
All right. Tell us what he did.
He picked it up, sat on the bed, and opened it.
And then what?
He pulled the magazine out and started showing us.
How many magazines do you think you saw that time?
4, 3, I don't know.
Did you look through the entire magazines?
No, it was probably a section or something like that.
What did you see in the magazines?
Nude females.
What?
Nude females.
Do you remember the names of any of the titles of the magazines that you saw?
Barely Legal and Playboy.
Does that photograph represent the items that you saw with the defendant, Michael Jackson?
Yes.
In his bedroom and in his jacuzzi or in his bathroom?
Yes.
I move it be admitted, Your Honor.
I think basically it's prejudicial and irrelevant.
All right, the probative value exceeds the prejudicial
I
effect.
can't hear.
It's admitted.
I can't hear you.
Your Honor, I think it's a little hard for Mr. Jackson to hear you.
Please speak up.
Whoa, directly to the judge. We'll talk about that in a minute. But with respect to the testimony, the question now becomes, was this all a bad joke or calculated seduction?
All right. Star, would you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what 153 is?
It's a mannequin.
And where was the mannequin located in the room when you saw it?
To the corner.
And with regard to this particular mannequin, did you ever see anything relative to the defendant in this case occur?
Yes.
Tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what you saw.
He was, one time, he was jerking around and he grabbed the mannequin and he was pretending like he was having intercourse with it.
And where did that occur?
On the bed. He was fully clothed. He was acting like he was humping.
I didn't hear what you said.
He was acting like he was humping it.
Now, who else was in the bedroom when this happened?
Aldo, my brother, and me.
And do you remember how this, how it started, or what happened, or were there...
I don't even remember, I'm sorry.
Did the defendant say anything while he was doing it?
He was laughing.
And how long did the whole episode last?
Probably 5 seconds.
All right, we're going to talk about that mannequin in just a moment, but let's just sort of pull back and talk about the trial, the courtroom dynamic. Michael Jackson speaking directly to the judge. Who wants to take that?
Oh, I love that. I love it. And if I were defending him, I would also love it because he's being very polite. He can't hear the judge. The judge is ruling on an objection, and it's like he's saying, hey, wait, this is my life. This is my liberty. I want to hear. And I think the jurors must have just all gotten startled.
I think so, too, but Howard... Go ahead, Sean.
It reminds me a little bit of what happened in the O.J. Simpson trial when he got up to show his hands with the gloves.
Yes.
He never testified in that case, of course, but he got to interact with the jury in a certain way.
A crucial prosecution error, but we don't want to get sidetracked.
Yeah, but
Go ahead.
it's kind of like that. He gets to interact with the jury to a certain extent. They turn, they look at him, and they, see what Michael Jackson is all about for the first time.
Howard, what do you make of this? A direct comment to the bench. I don't want to get too caught up in the old issue of decorum or client control, but is there an issue going on here between Jackson's attorneys and what they're instructing him to do in terms of his behavior?
Well, I'm sure he wasn't instructed to get up and address the court directly. I would have asked him to sit down or be seated, not to do that again. And you can't tell how the judge reacted from the testimony that we saw. So I'm not sure what the jury's response was, if they found it odd, if they did look and listen to Michael.
Is it going to seem calculated and contrived? Hold that thought, Sean, because we got to get back to the mannequin issue and what was in that suitcase. But next, D.A. Stanton gets a startling response from his young witness.
Star, did you ever have any conversations with the defendant about any other sexual matters?
Yes.
About what?
Masturbation.
All right. Will you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury...
I don't know how the topic came about, but he was asking me if I ever masturbated, and I said no, and he said...
Objection. There's no question pending. He just went off.
Sustained.
All right. Would you tell us what was said, what the defendant said?
He asked me if I masturbated, and I said no. He then said to me that everyone does it, and you should try it. It's okay, and all this stuff.
Were you the only one he asked that question of?
Yes. Well, yeah, yes.
And when you said no, did he say anything else?
Yeah, he said it's okay and everyone does it and you should try it. That's what he said.
Was there anything else said besides that?
No.
And out of that, the accusation at the heart of this case.
Let's go back. You were at the door, and the door what?
The door's kind of locked, so I pushed it, and it opened. So I went halfway to where the computer table used to be, and I saw directly into the bed, and I stopped. And my brother was outside of the covers, and I saw Michael's left hand in my brother's underwears.
Now, at that time, could you see what the defendant was wearing?
Socks, underwears, and an undershirt.
Now, could you tell what kind of underwear it was?
No.
I mean, I'm sorry.
No.
With regard to your brother, what was he wearing?
I can't quite remember what he was wearing.
Do you remember what you could see of him? Was there part of him that he didn't have anything on?
Yeah, I know he had a shirt and he had his socks. I think he had pants or underwears on. I don't remember.
All right. Now, you said you saw his hand. Now, when you say in his pants, and who are you talking about?
Michael.
All right. When you saw that, did you see what, if anything, he was doing?
He was masturbating.
What do you mean by that?
He was rubbing himself.
And how could you tell that?
Because he had his hand in his pants and he was stroking up and down.
Did you see anything else about the defendant while he was doing that?
No.
That's some potentially explosive and powerful testimony, Howard Weitzman, for the prosecution team. What does Tom Mesereau do on cross-examination? Does he have a prayer here?
Well, he has more than a prayer. This is what cross-examination is all about.
Okay.
When you think about the profile of a pedophile, and then you listen to what the testimony was, you have magazines, girly magazines, adult magazines, basically, as the young man was coached to say. You have Michael Jackson allegedly humping a mannequin, not consistent with pedophilia. And then you have, to me, an unbelievable scenario. Given the elaborate security we've been told about by Mr. Sneddon, the young man sneaks up the stairway. Michael leaves the door open when he supposedly has his hand in the pants of the victim.
Right. Now that's big.
Who sleeps through part of this, by the way.
According to his brother, he says he was snoring sort of, but Ricky, that's a great point, I think. Obviously, if he's a pedophile, he's not trying to get caught, and he does have that elaborate system in his house, according to published reports.
Well, according to published reports, but then all of us can get careless from time to time when kids have the run of that area of the house. What we have to think about here is the difference between truth, as it appears to the jury, and what may appear to be fiction. Where you may get jurors to think it's truthful are the 3 M's. We're talking about magazines, masturbation, and a mannequin.
Okay.
And all of those activities described by this youngster appear to be very adolescent.
They do.
Just like what young boys might want to do when they're alone.
But
and that leads us perhaps to jurors being prepared to believe the allegation of molestation is truthful.
Perhaps, but I want to catch up on 2 points that Howard made with you, Sean. The idea of coaching and the idea of consistency with pedophilia. Let's take the coaching part first. As attorneys, we understand why Howard made that statement, but explain it to us. What are the indicators to you as a skilled trial attorney that there may have been coaching here?
Well, we certainly don't expect this witness, who is 15, to use words like adult material.
Okay.
Obviously, that's something that Mr. Sneddon or someone in the district attorney's office told him to say.
Or suggested, or he picked it up perhaps in an interview. It doesn't mean malicious conduct on the part of the prosecutor necessarily.
No, but it means that they're working very closely together, and Mr. Sneddon has told him what he wants to hear.
Well,
and what he wants to hear is adult material.
Well, see, I disagree. Let me just defend the prosecution here just one time. You know as well as I do that when you're talking to your witness and you're preparing your witness, the witness may pick up terms, especially when they're young witnesses, not necessarily planning terms in their mind, but kids pick up terms. Come on.
Well,
right?
Of course they do, and of course that's absolute fuel for Tom Mesereau, and that's the most obvious of all. Kids don't use adult material. Even the fact of the use of the word erection, and he says, by the way, that's his term.
Right.
The kid owns that term. So, yes, there may have been coaching. Well, that's for Mesereau to use that engine of truth of cross-examination to ferret it out if he can.
Oh, the shadows of the McMartin preschool case that went down the tubes because of too much adult contact with very young witnesses, working to the detriment of their believability. Still ahead, descriptions of the alleged behavior that you may just find, literally, folks, we're not joking around, too graphic for your young children to hear. But stay with us.
The reenactments and commentary in this program may contain frank talk of a sexual nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back. District Attorney Tom Sneddon drives home the point that Jackson took advantage of the accuser on more than one occasion. According to the courtroom transcripts, here's what his younger brother told the jurors.
You say the same thing was happening. Tell me what was happening.
My brother was asleep. Michael was masturbating while he had his left hand in my brother's underwears.
And what kind of underwear was your brother wearing?
I don't know.
Now, when you said you saw the defendant masturbating, where were they on the bed? What were the positions of the people on the bed on this occasion? If you're looking at the bed, who was on the left?
Michael.
And who was on the right?
Gavin.
And you said that you saw him masturbating again. What did you actually see occurring?
What?
The defendant. What did you see him doing?
Masturbating, stroking up and down.
Where?
In his private area.
Could you see what the other hand was doing?
Moving. It was, I don't know how to explain it.
Well, can you just show us what you saw?
It was going like that.
And that's the hand that was where?
Me and my brother's underwears.
So just for the record, just sort of got a fist and opening it up and sort of like that?
Yeah.
Who was the first person that you told what you saw?
Dr. Katz.
You never told your mother?
No.
Or your brother?
No.
And just to clarify, Dr. Katz is the psychologist that interviewed all three children, the accuser, his brother, and his sister. All right, we got to wrap it up. Sean, your final thoughts.
Well, I think that we're going to see the victim up on the stand next.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's coming up.
Now, if the accuser does take the stand, is there going to be enough ammunition based on what we've seen already, Sean?
Well, really, this witness becomes the most critical witness. If the victim was sleeping, then maybe he doesn't know what was going on. So the witness that's on the stand now is probably the most critical, and what Mr. Mesereau does next is what we're all going to be watching.
Tom Sneddon wants so hard to believe these people. The logic, however, I think makes the whole story fanciful. And by the way, the young man Starr, he observed this conduct twice. Not once. He snuck up the stairs twice.
Okay.
And twice.
Real quick. Ricky?
If this young man is believed and Mesereau doesn't knock him down, the case is over. However, if Mesereau succeeds, it's a whole new ballgame.
All right. That's all we have for today. Catch us tomorrow, 7:30 and 9.